In this video we're going to cover the installation of some rock lights. Okay, these rock lights are from a company called Ovotor. So, inside the box we have our, it looks like a manual for using the app. And then we have the rock lights. So we have the brain module and the actual rock light. Metal housing, rubber or rubber plastic isolator, sealed back it looks like. That's good. Alright, so we have the hookup, all the wires. I will have to figure out what these are for. And then we got 4 lights. Now I opted to go with the 4-pod light kit. I'm not big on lights. I had the opportunity to test these out, so we're going to go ahead and see what happens. Just from the get-go, it looks like I've got 2 wires, positive and ground, and then 1 output wire that goes to the rest of the lights. So what I'm most likely going to do is hook this up to a relay so I can control it with a switch, because I don't want these things going on and off at their leisure, even though I know most of the time it's controlled with a cell phone. But you know what I might do is I might just do a temporary hookup just to test these lights out. So let's take a look. So with the app, you can adjust the brightness. I'll see if I can capture this. You can do it however you want, and you can change whatever colors you want. Let's just do. Okay. You can turn it off, turn it back on. There we go. So there's a little light bulb here. You could do color spectrum, or you could do white. And I take it that's the white. And you can adjust the brightness on that. So that's pretty cool. So what I'm going to do now is turn the lights back on and kind of get these placed in the wheel wells, at least temporarily, just to see where I want to place them. Okay, so that's just temporarily hooked up with a magnet. So just testing this out. Let's play around a little bit. Let's do green. Woo! When setting up to install your kit, there's a couple things you want to keep in mind. You want to keep in mind where you want the brain or the control module to be mounted, as well as what type of look you want for your lights. Now, I want more or less aesthetic and more function. So I want to put the lights to shine up more of the undercarriage and right around the base of the tires. Some people put them in the wheel wells. Some people have them shining on either side of the wheel wells. I only have a 4-pod, so I'm going to put mine right on the unibody rails, shining down to light up the whole undercarriage, so I can make sure that I am going to avoid any rocks on the trail at nighttime. Something to also keep in mind is where you want to mount your control module. Now, I was originally going to do it inside the cab because the instructions said keep it dry and also keep it within a working temperature. Now, unfortunately, I don't really like having it inside the cab. There's too many wires to run. I'm also looking to wire this to a kind of like a light control module, kind of like what our Rough Country has currently. So I'm just going to run this directly to the battery. I'm going to mount it right here, right below the windshield on the firewall inside the engine bay. I've gone ahead and siliconed all the wires and all the cracks and crevices to make the case as watertight as possible. Where your control module is mounted will ultimately determine how your wiring harness is run. Now this wiring harness, one side of it is longer than the other. It splits off for ultimately a passenger or driver side. Now if you mount your control module on the passenger side of the car or vehicle, you're going to want the longer wiring harness to be on the driver's side. Now if you put the control module on the driver's side, you're going to want the longer wiring harness to be on the passenger side. So basically the opposite of wherever you mount your control module is what the opposite side is where you want the longer of the wiring harnesses. This ultimately compensates for the run across the vehicle. Either that be in the front of the vehicle, the rear of the vehicle, it all depends. These kits are very universal. They can go a million different ways. You can mount the control module several different ways. I'm going to run mine through a switch and right to the battery fused. Snug. Let's try it again. On the back, I've decided to go where I'm going to mount these right where the sway bar mount would have been. My vehicle didn't come with one, but this is where the body mount for the sway bar would have been. So I'm just going to put it right here, kind of center it, and so I have it lined up on both sides. And it's also a really nice flat piece for the lights. Now that we got all the lights installed, we're going to go ahead and start running the wires. Alright. Okay, so now we're going to start hooking up the wires. I got my connector hooked up to my main harness. And like I said, I got the longer of the two, I got the longer harness after that first Y going down the driver's side because I'm putting my control module right here on the passenger side. And now I'm going to start running. I'm going to run the driver's side along this main harness down. Come down here next to the shock tower mount. So this is the driver's side. I'm running the wire right down below the brake booster. I'm going to follow the evap and fuel lines all the way to the back of the Jeep. And I just got to be aware of the Y, which is right there. Okay. So it's kind of hard to see. put this wire right here. There's a little hole. It's kind of hard to see. Let's see if I can get you up there. Okay. There's a little hole right there. I believe it's for the ABS. I'm going to go ahead and run the front driver's side wheel well through there. Okay, now that everything is pretty much run, I'm going to go ahead and go back and clean up all the wire, all the excess wire, make it look pretty, kind of hide a bunch of it. And I also just got to finalize the wiring for the power and the ground. Right now, I'm going to be running the power off a fuse switch I have previously installed in the vehicle. This kit says you can hook it right up to the battery and use the app as the switch. I prefer to have a switch in line, so that way, for whatever reason, if it does malfunction and get stuck on, I can shut it off with a switch. So, you know, your mileage might vary. So do what applies to your Jeep. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to hook up my red 12 volt in to my 12 volt power source, which is coming from my fused switch. And then I'm going to take the black wire and ground that right to the body. You could also ground this right to the ground wire on your battery as well, but this just happens to be the right length. I'm just going to clean this up, ground, and put a ring connector on and bolt it in. Then I'm just going to trim this to length. This is my power wire, and hook that to my red wire, and then butt connector it in place. I'm just going to wrap a little tape on that, secure it, and throw a little loom, and we're good to go. Alright. So what I'm going to do now is strap down the wire so it's not bopping around in the wheel well, hitting all types of flexing tires and everything. Okay, so now that the install is 100%, now I had already gotten the app prior to finishing the install, only because I wanted to test the lights for placement. So if you haven't done it up to this point, we're going to go ahead and get the app suggested by the manufacturer. Now, if this is where you want to just check the function before you finalize everything. So what I'm going to do is I have my switch, I turn them on, and all the lights are turned on. Okay. Now what we're going to do is go in and get the app. It's BLE underscore LIGHT. I'm going to get the app. Now you got to make sure your lights or you have power to the unit, otherwise it won't show up when you scan. I just did that when I off camera. I tried to scan and I couldn't find it until I turned it on. So you go ahead and scan. That is the BLE underscore LIGHT is also the name of the control module that we're going to use. So we're going to check that. Go back. We're going to go into this. Now it's going to say disconnected, connect. Now you don't have to do this every time. You only have to do that step when you first get the app. So what we're going to do is you can turn the light off, turn the light on. You can, there's a light bulb. Oops. Oh. You can adjust the brightness. And this light bulb here is when you want to go to the bright whites. Now if you want color, you can just go through the scale and see the color changes. Okay. There's also a picture. I think you can set, if you save the picture, it'll save whatever color you want it. If you find the exact right color. I haven't messed with this yet too much. I believe it is a feature. So there's other options too. You can go up here. You can do music. Now, I don't keep music on my phone. I stream it. So I do have my over-the-horizon Samsung, I think, ringtone. If you go ahead, oops, yep, you got to grant permissions for some things here. I forgot about that part. I think you have to do camera. Oops, allow. Phone, allow. And I think it should be good now. We'll try that again. Let's see if we can get it to play music here. Grant. Permissions. Oh, that's why. Wow. Okay. Let's do that again. So. Okay. And there's other things too. I don't know what the clock does. To be honest with you, I haven't done much research for it. I really only wanted to buy these things or try these things for the rock light purpose. Like, I'm not trying to do a light show. I just want to be able to light up under the rig if I go wheeling at night. That's all. You can also link multiple kits together, which is kind of cool. Scene modes. I guess. So these are kind of color presets. You can go through. I'll roll through a couple of these. You can make your own. and it has a user guide on here with a whole bunch of functions that it will walk you through, which is kind of cool. Lock passwords. So that's kind of it. Okay guys, just a quick recap. It literally is 2 wires to hook up, your 12-volt power and then your ground, and then you're running your wiring harness to the lights that you mount wherever you want. Now everybody's Jeep is different, everybody's thoughts on electrical is going to be different, so your results may vary. But if you have any questions or comments, please leave those down below and I'll do my best to answer those.